My name is Daisy Michael, and I'm 34 years old. If you had walked into our condo 2 weeks before everything detonated, you'd have said it looked curated. Not my word. Henry's. The linen throw arranged like it fell by accident. The coffee table books opened to pages that photographed well. Even the fruit bowl was color blocked, because supposedly pears next to lemons signal approachable affluence. I design systems for a living, cybersecurity consulting, so I'm suspicious of anything that only looks good from a distance. Stability isn't a filter. It's a firewall you test every week to make sure nothing snuck in while you were distracted by pretty dashboards. Henry is 30. He works in public relations for a lifestyle brand that sells legacy in recyclable packaging. He's good at what he does. Very good. He can turn a smudge into a glow. He knows where to place the camera and which sentence will make strangers think they know him. We met 3 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. He lit up a yard, strung with bistro lights. I noticed where the extension cord dragged across damp grass, and the power strip sat too close to a puddle. He loved crowds. I loved edges. Back then it felt like balance. We got engaged 4 months ago. He handled the aesthetic and the guest list. I handled the money and logistics. Division of labor, we said, like an inside joke with a ledger. He wanted it to look good online. I believe that was just his industry speaking. The shift began with the sentence that sounded like weather. We were in the kitchen. I was chopping scallions. He was scrolling, thumb doing that quick flick, like he was swiping thoughts away before they got loud. He said, almost idly, "Oh, by the way, Evelyn is coming to the engagement dinner, just so you know." The knife paused over the cutting board. "Evelyn?" "My ex," he said, not looking up. "We're adults, Daisy. Be mature." There are words that bruise, and there are words that reposition your spine. Be mature did both. I swallowed the protest. I do not throw scenes. I document. I troubleshoot. I've spent years training my mind to privilege signal over noise. But for the next 2 weeks, the noise changed timbre. It wasn't dramatic, just off. Henry smiled at his phone, then flipped it face down when I walked in. Gym selfies with captions about self-care and growth. Early bedtimes. The tremor of typing under the duvet. Not cold, just not present. I tried to talk. He was busy. I tried again. He was tired. He kissed my forehead and called me steady, the way some people say, sturdy furniture. Here's what matters. I do not spiral. I observe. We share a car, a Model 3, registered in both our names, driven by both of us every day, paid by a joint account that I manage. Washington is a one-party consent state. If you're using the device and you consent to recording, it's legal. I ordered a small, voice-activated recorder. $40. 12 hours capacity. It arrived with that cheerful click of bubble wrap that made me briefly hate e-commerce. I told myself I was confirming my paranoia so I could let it go. I slipped the recorder into the glove box one morning before work. The same morning I checked the dinner head count. 43, including both sets of parents, my 2 sisters, his older sister, 3 co-workers who have perfected the soft brag, and a cousin who posts reels of other people's speeches. The rooftop restaurant overlooks Puget Sound. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A string-light skyline. A small stage for toasts. Perfect for a montage, Henry had said. Perfect for clarity, I thought. 2 nights later, when Henry was in the shower humming a song I could not stand, I retrieved the recorder and took it into my office, headphones on, heart in a vice. 40 minutes of mundane. His pop playlist. A call with his mother about moody florals. He tried harmonizing with the wrong key twice and then laughed at himself, and I felt this ache because I love his laugh when it isn't performing. Then, the driver's door, the passenger door, a shift in air that wasn't mine. "Hey," a woman said, warm, breathy, shaped like memory. "Evelyn." Henry's voice dropped into a tone I recognized and pretended I didn't. "You look insane," he teased, in a good way. Her laugh was the kind designed for proximity. "Relax," she said. "She's totally harmless. She's not going to suspect anything." I didn't realize I had stopped breathing until my lungs begged. Static, seatbelts, the creak of leather. Henry quieter now. Just the prenup, the timing. Evelyn clearer, like she'd moved closer to the mic. "Once the prenup is signed and filed, I'll make it clean. I promise. I just need her stable for a few more months." Silence, the kind that roars. Evelyn again, almost giddy. "I'll actually see you at the dinner. That's not weird?" Henry exhaled. It'll be poetic. She'll be so focused on being the good girl, she won't even see it coming. I let the track run for 10 more minutes of road noise and a looped chorus that felt like mockery. Then I saved the file, duplicated it to 2 encrypted drives, and uploaded it to a cold storage folder with a name that would never be guessed. By a human who hadn't watched me alphabetize grief. I did not confront him. I ran our Thursday like nothing happened. I approved the last payment to the venue. I confirmed the AV setup, casually asked the manager if I could push a 2-minute montage from my phone, a surprise for my fiancé. He said of course. He loved love. When Henry asked if I could pick up his suit from the tailor, I said yes. When he asked if the guest list had room for one more from his team, I said I'd try. When he kissed my cheek and told me I was so good at logistics, I counted to 8 and reminded myself that counting is a technique for panic, not a cure. In bed that night, he turned toward the wall and said, "We're going to be the couple people talk about." "We already are," I said to the dark. If I've learned anything from protecting systems, it's this. People tell on themselves long before the breach. A ping, a pattern. A choice that makes sense only if you already know the ending. "Be mature," Henry told me in the kitchen with scallions and a scroll. So I will be. I will gather information. I will make an informed decision. And I will let everyone else make one too. The night before the engagement dinner, Seattle felt like a postcard trying too hard. Gold light on wet streets, the kind of glow that hides rot. Henry stood at the counter, sipping his green juice, talking about the menu, as if food were a brand identity. I watched him the way I audit a system I no longer trust, tracking every click, every unlogged activity. He looked perfect. He always did. A linen shirt open just enough, sleeves rolled, like effortless. If someone saw us, they'd think, stable couple, on the brink of forever. That's what I used to think too, until I heard my name in his mouth like a temporary password. That night, he asked if I wanted to run through our thank you speech. I said sure. I let him lead, watched him rehearse gratitude the way a performer checks lighting angles. When he said, "Daisy keeps me grounded," I had to look away because the truth was sitting in my pocket, a USB drive the size of guilt. I didn't sleep much. At 3:00 a.m., I rechecked the file. Not because I doubted it, but because disbelief and proof never occupy the same room quietly. I listened again. The laugh, the promise. I'll make it clean. Then I did something that felt almost ceremonial. I exported a copy, encrypted it, named the folder Optics Backup. By morning, I'd mapped out every variable, venue tech specs, Wi-Fi latency, backup battery for the projector, timing, speech order. I wasn't improvising vengeance. I was executing precision. When you work in cybersecurity, you learn that timing determines impact. Leak too soon, you look unstable. Leak too late, you look complicit. Release at peak visibility, and the system rewrites itself around the truth. That night was my timestamp. The restaurant was suspended over Puget Sound like a glass secret. 43 guests, candles mirrored in windows. The kind of view people pay extra for just to feel small. Henry's family arrived first. His mother hugged me like she was congratulating herself. His father shook my hand with the satisfaction of a deal finalized. My sisters whispered, "You're glowing." And I smiled because sometimes light is just heat escaping from something about to burst. Evelyn came 20 minutes late. She entered the room like a glitch that shouldn't exist in this version of the code. White dress, bare shoulders, a practiced half smile. Henry's face changed when he saw her. Not a full expression, just a flicker, but enough. She touched his arm. He touched her back. The way their fingers brushed felt like déjà vu on fire. I kept smiling. I greeted guests. I poured wine. Every camera caught me mid-laugh. And that's the thing about optics. You can't photograph the moment someone decides to burn the frame. When dinner began, I barely heard the speeches. My mind hummed with the sequence I'd built. Tap glass. Wait for silence. Say something sweet. Press play. By dessert, the city was ink and reflection. The servers brought out tiramisu in champagne coupes. Henry squeezed my hand and whispered, "Your big moment." He thought I'd prepared a video montage of us. In a way, I had. I stood, glass in hand. "Before we wrap up tonight," I said, "I wanted to share something small but meaningful. A peek behind the curtain, I guess. 2 minutes. I think it captures where we really are." The manager nodded. I tapped play on my phone. No video appeared, just sound. First, laughter. Her laugh, Evelyn's, that soft, practiced, sugar-high sound. Then Henry's voice, low, intimate. Relax. She's harmless. A beat. Then the sentence that split my world open again in front of 43 witnesses. Once the prenup is signed and filed, I'll make it clean. Silence. Not the kind that waits for applause. The kind that removes air from the room. Henry froze, one hand still on his glass. Evelyn's face went from blush to paper. My mother-in-law's mouth opened like a dropped call. Someone's fork hit the floor. I let it run to the part where he said, "She'll be so focused on being the good girl, she won't even see it coming." Then I stopped it, and because performance is all about tone, I smiled. "Henry told me to be mature about inviting Evelyn," I said softly. "So I handled it like an adult. I gathered information. I made an informed decision. And now everyone else can too." The city outside sparkled, pretending not to hear. I didn't look back when I left. At home, I set the engagement ring beside his car keys and the printed transcript. Next to it, I wrote a note in my neat engineer's handwriting. "Keep the optics." Then I packed a weekend bag, checked into a quiet hotel, and emailed my lawyer before midnight. By dawn, my accounts were frozen, my legal consultation scheduled, and every backup of that recording stored in redundant clouds. Henry texted once at 7:12 a.m. "We need to talk." I didn't respond. I had already said everything that mattered. Morning light in Seattle has a way of pretending everything's forgivable. The streets were washed clean from the night's drizzle, coffee shops humming with people who had no idea an engagement had publicly self-destructed 24 hours earlier. I woke in my hotel room to 3 missed calls, 1 from Henry, 2 from his mother. No voicemail, just silence trying to disguise itself as urgency. The city moved on schedule. I did too. I checked out, left the hotel key on the counter, and met my attorney, Lydia Kane, a woman who spoke in crisp sentences and wore navy blazers like armor. She specialized in what she called near marital catastrophes, the space between promise and property. She didn't flinch when I slid the USB drive across her desk. "Is it legal?" she asked. "One-party consent," I said. "Washington State. The car is registered in both our names. I consented." She nodded. "Good. Because this isn't just heartbreak, it's documentation." That word, documentation, felt like breath returning to structure. Within hours, Lydia had frozen our joint checking account, filed a formal notice requesting Henry remove his belongings within 30 days, and started a paper trail that read like calm fury. The condo was in my name. The Tesla loan was under mine too. Every ledger line reminded me that clarity, not chaos, was my currency. I didn't post anything. I didn't text back. I didn't warn him. But someone else did. By Monday, my phone lit up with messages from friends who'd seen the footage online. Not my upload, but shaky clips filmed by guests. The sound was grainy, but recognizable. Henry's voice. Evelyn's laugh. The sentence that had rewired my definition of love. Someone captioned it. "When PR meets reality." I didn't watch. I didn't have to. By Tuesday morning, Henry's company issued a temporary leave for personal matters. The irony wasn't lost on me. He'd built his career on crisis management. Now he was the crisis. At 2 p.m., a coworker of his DM'd me. "He's saying you edited the audio, that it's AI." I almost laughed. It would have been smarter of him to apologize. That night, a video appeared on TikTok. Henry, barefaced, speaking directly to the camera, voice trembling just enough to register as authenticity. When you're engaged to someone controlling them, they'll twist any story. I wasn't unfaithful. I was trying to end things maturely. She humiliated me in front of everyone. The caption, "Healing from narcissistic abuse." Within hours, the comments split. Half empathy, half suspicion. And all I could think was how predictable spin looked from someone whose entire profession was optics. My best friend Tessa called. "You're trending on Reddit," she said. "I don't even have Reddit," I replied. Someone posted the transcript, anonymous, probably one of the guests. "Good. There's a strange peace, in truth, existing outside of you. Like you can finally rest because the system has redundancy." 3 days later, an email from an unfamiliar address landed in my inbox. Subject line, "You don't know me, but I know him." The sender, Angela, a communications analyst from Henry's company. Her message was short. "Hi, Daisy. We met once at the holiday mixer last year. I saw what's happening online. I wasn't sure if I should say anything, but I think you deserve to see this." Angela. Attached were screenshots, months of them. Messages between Henry and Evelyn. Plans to Keep things cool until the ring. Henry calling me safe, predictable, placeholder energy. Evelyn replying, "You're building a brand, not a marriage." There was one message I had to read twice. Henry, once the contract's signed, I can pivot without drama. He'd used my life like a campaign timeline. I stared at the screen until the text blurred. Then I forwarded everything to Lydia. Her response came within minutes. "Sit tight, this changes leverage." That phrase, changes leverage, shouldn't have felt like vindication, but it did. By the weekend, my name was trending again, this time under a tag I didn't ask for. #the optics fiancé. Henry's story was collapsing under weight he'd built himself. People dug up old posts, brand reels, podcast clips where he'd preached transparency. Someone synced his past quotes about authentic love with the audio clip of him calling me harmless. It went viral. His company released a bland statement about mutual separation. And just like that, the man who'd built his identity on narrative lost control of one. Evelyn disappeared from social media altogether. No apology, no defense, just vanished. I wish I could say I celebrated. I didn't. I went home, made tea, and sat in the dark of a half-empty condo filled with echoes that still knew his laugh. I didn't feel like a winner. I felt like a witness. The next morning, Tessa texted me a link. Henry again, this time on LinkedIn, blazer and all, talking about how corporate America punishes men who speak their truth. Half the comments were cheering him on. The other half asked why his truth omitted the recording. I didn't reply. I archived everything, and I told myself, this ends now. But stories don't end when the truth is known. They end when the noise stops hurting, and I wasn't there yet. 2 weeks after the dinner, I moved through my days like an echo, efficient, polite, but hollow. The condo was quieter than I remembered. The smell of Henry's cologne had faded from the hallway, but his absence had its own scent, something metallic and unresolved. The headlines slowed. The comments split into new factions. Those who thought I'd humiliated him for sport, and those who thought I'd done what every woman should when gaslit by someone who weaponized charm. I read none of them, but the noise leaked through anyway. I started taking calls only from Lydia, my attorney, and my mom. Everyone else could wait. "Henry hasn't responded to the asset division proposal," Lydia said one morning, flipping through paperwork in her calm, precise way. "He's stalling, but that's fine. The clock's on our side." I nodded. "He's also doing himself no favors," she added. "He's posting." She rotated her laptop so I could see. Henry's LinkedIn post, viral again, titled, "How Companies Silence Men Who Refuse to Play the Victim." There he was in his home office, pale and perfectly lit, accusing unnamed forces of ruining his career for telling the truth. He never mentioned me, but his phrasing was surgical enough to plant a seed of doubt. "The thing about spin," Lydia said, "is it only works if the other person engages. Don't feed it." I promised I wouldn't. That night, I broke that promise. I didn't post, but I opened the shared cloud folder I'd created the week of the dinner, Evidence Archive, Final, and added one more file, screenshots from Angela's email. Henry and Evelyn planning weekends, calling me the boring one, placeholder wife, future investor in our fun. The metadata was clear. Dates, locations, device IDs, undeniable. I didn't leak them. I just labeled the folder for legal use only and gave Lydia access. Somewhere between anger and exhaustion, I realized I didn't want revenge. I wanted an audit trail. 3 days later, Henry's PR world imploded. Someone, maybe Angela, maybe someone else, sent the full audio and message threads to his company's HR inbox with the subject line, "Employee Misrepresentation and Reputational Risk." His brand specialized in authentic storytelling. The optics of a man weaponizing healing language to lie about abuse didn't fit the mission statement. He was mutually separated within 48 hours. He tried to post about it again, this time from a secondary account. Funny how truth gets you fired. It got 12 likes. Evelyn, the ex who started this loop, vanished. Deleted accounts. Moved out of her apartment, according to a mutual acquaintance. The last trace of her online was an Instagram story with a quote overlay. "Not everyone can handle a woman who knows what she wants." The irony didn't even sting anymore. Tessa came over that weekend with takeout and a blunt. She dropped onto my couch like it was a lifeboat. "You look like someone who's been unplugged for maintenance," she said. "That's accurate," I replied. She poured wine. "You're aware you're the internet's latest morality Rorschach test, right?" Half think you're a hero, half think you're Satan in a silk dress. I shrugged. They're both wrong. I'm just tired. She studied me. You don't regret it, do you, playing that recording? I thought about it. The silence after the audio, the color draining from Henry's face, the way truth lands differently in a room when it's not filtered through emotion, but evidence. I don't regret the exposure, I said quietly. I regret ever needing it. Tessa nodded, slow and knowing. You know, she said, some people spend their whole lives trying to get that kind of closure. You just got it loud. Closure isn't loud, I said. It's just quiet without guilt. Weeks passed. The world found new scandals. Henry's LinkedIn post aged poorly, drowned in contradictory screenshots that circulated without my involvement. Friends sent updates. I stopped reading. I started packing the condo, one drawer at a time. Clothes, dishes, remnants of a life that looked beautiful from far away. Every time I filled a box, I labeled it with 2 words, keep or release. When I got to the box labeled kitchen, I found the cutting board from the night he told me to be mature. The groove still had a faint line from where the knife paused. I stared at it for a while before dropping it into the release pile. By mid-March, the condo was empty. I sold it within 2 weeks. Fast market, clean slate. I rented a small apartment in Portland. 1 bedroom, exposed brick, a plant that looked like hope if you squinted. I started working freelance contracts again. Startups, risk audits, the kind of projects that asked for quiet focus and delivered clean results. I didn't think about Henry much, but sometimes when the city got still enough, I'd catch myself missing the illusion. That's the part nobody warns you about. When the lie fades, it leaves an outline you mistake for love. 2 months later, I walked into a rescue shelter just to look. I walked out with a tan mutt named Copper who shook at every loud sound. He followed me from room to room like loyalty still meant something. I liked that about him. I started sleeping better, eating slower, letting days happen without checking headlines. One evening, as the rain thinned to mist, I caught my reflection in the window. Hair longer, eyes steadier. I realized it had been exactly 1 year since the dinner. I whispered to the empty room, "You told me to be mature." And then I smiled, because I had been. It's been 14 months since that night. The rooftop, the recording, the silence that swallowed an entire room. By now I should have forgotten the details. But memory has a cruel way of keeping what no longer serves you. Still, life has shape again. Portland suits me. The air is slower here, the conversations less curated. My days start with coffee from the cafe below my apartment and Copper tugging at his leash like he's auditioning for freedom. I work remote contracts now, penetration testing, digital risk mitigation, quiet work, clean work. I don't think about Henry every day, but sometimes when I'm debugging a system and the code loops back to the same line no matter how many times I fix it, I remember him and think, some errors aren't meant to be repaired. They're meant to be replaced. A few Saturdays ago, I went to the farmer's market downtown. It was one of those bright, forgiving mornings, sky sharp as glass, air smelling like baked peaches and rosemary. Copper barked at everything that moved, a walking reminder that healing isn't the same as calm. I was at a stall comparing honey jars when a voice behind me said my name. Daisy? I turned. Henry. For a heartbeat, the world shrank. Then it didn't. He looked different. Thinner, beard overgrown, hair shorter. The kind of change that doesn't come from style, but from surrender. He wore jeans and a plaid shirt. No branding, no curated charm, just tired eyes and a paper bag of apples. Hey, I said. My voice surprised me with how steady it was. Hey. We stood in the sunlight, strangers with history. Copper sniffed at his shoes, uninterested in ghosts. You live here? I asked. 8 months now. Marketing job at a small firm. Nothing glamorous, but stable. He gave a half smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. You look good. Different, but good. Thanks. He nodded toward Copper. He's yours? Rescue. He's anxious. We're working on it. Dogs are good for that, he said. Silence stretched. The kind that used to mean a fight was brewing. This time it just meant there was nothing left to fight about. I've been in therapy, he said suddenly. A lot, actually. My therapist told me if I ever saw you, I should tell you what I never said properly. I didn't stop him. He exhaled. I don't hate you, Daisy. I did for a while. I told myself you ruined me, that you made me look small on purpose, but I've had time, and I get it now. He looked down at the apples in his bag. You were protecting yourself. I was too proud to see it. You wanted honesty. I wanted control. And I kept telling myself you were the safe choice, when really you were the honest one. That terrified me. He paused, eyes glistening, but not breaking. I thought if I could keep you calm and curated, everything would stay perfect. When it didn't, I made you the villain. That's on me. The wind shifted. A child laughed somewhere behind us. Life went on, uncaring. I'm sorry, he said. Not because I want forgiveness. I just needed to say it. I stared at him, at the man who once built entire narratives out of half-truths and hashtags, now standing in front of me, stripped of spin. I appreciate you saying that, I said quietly. And for what it's worth, I don't hate you either. I just don't know you anymore. He nodded. That's fair. We stood there one more second. Two people who'd been undone by the same story. He gestured to Copper. Take care of him. I will. He smiled, small, real, and then walked away, disappearing into the crowd until he was just another man buying fruit on a Saturday morning. I stood there for a moment longer, breathing. I thought I'd feel triumphant, or sad, or something cinematic, but what came was quieter, a release so small it almost felt like a sigh. Copper barked, tugging toward the next booth, life insisting forward motion. As we walked, I realized something. Henry always wanted fireworks, loud, dazzling, gone in seconds. What I gave him was clarity, and clarity burns longer than fireworks ever will. I'm not healed, I'm not bitter, I'm just here, alive, working, rebuilding, and for the first time in years, that feels enough.